When operating model year 25 combines and harvest automation, we need to make sure our ground loss is verified, and this is done with a pan test. While operating the machine, I'll go into my grain loss limit, and I have the option for a setting tool. With a drop pan on the machine while I'm harvesting crop, I will hit the capture button, and the capture will capture the grain loss number from the primary display. For a better visual, let's use the simulator. On the left side, I have my PDU or primary display unit, and in the center is my Gen 5 display. Now the PDU shows the grain loss bars and a grain loss number value. That is the sum of the rotor loss and the shoe loss, but this is an arbitrary number. It is not bushel per acre loss. In the Gen 5 display, on the left side, I have a grain loss limit value, and on the right, I have the actual grain loss value from the PDU. If I press the grain loss limit value in the white box, I can make adjustments to this value, or I have the option to choose the grain loss limit tool. Choosing the tool allows me to perform a capture. A capture is capturing a value of the PDU when I drop a pan or throw a pan while harvesting at full engine power and full of product. When I hit capture, it'll store the number on the PDU at the time I drop my pan. The next step is to verify my ground loss. If I'm using a system like Bushel Plus, I will gather my pan and I'll separate the grain from material other than grain. If I don't have this system, I could still do the ground method. Where I hit capture, I'll go to that spot in the field. I will clean off my 1 foot by 1 foot square, exposing the seed, and then count the number of kernels on the ground. In the Bushel Plus, once my sample is clean, I will weigh that sample. Depending on the method you use, there are tools out there that can help you calculate the grain loss. On the left is Equipment Mobile from John Deere, and on the right is the Bushel Plus app. In Equipment Mobile, if I choose an X9 combine, I'll have access to a grain loss calculator. Now, both apps just require some inputs from the operator: the crop being harvested, the header width, the spread width, the number of kernels counted, or the weight of the kernels collected. Both tools will generate a grain loss calculation. After finding my actual loss, I'll proceed in the cab of the combine. As you can see on the left side, I have it set for bushel per acre. I will then input the actual loss in bushel per acre. Using the tools we had, we calculated a 0.8 bushel per acre loss. Then the system will ask, what is the acceptable loss for this machine? The acceptable loss, we will use 1 bushel per acre. Then the system will use a formula of a captured PDU value, the actual loss we verified, and our acceptable loss. And that generates a new grain loss limit value. Now, when I hit save, this grain loss limit value will be on the harvest automation page. Adjustments may need to be made to the grain loss limit value, but keep in mind that a ground verification or a pan test must be done to know what the loss is of the machine. Once I know the loss of the machine, I can associate that to the value on the PDU. In this example, 4.2 was equal to 0.8 bushel loss. This will vary from machine to machine.